Shalom Akim, Yahbashim Shai Barakatham, Hashem Kwakadash, Zbram Nasha DC Camp with a short video certified sincere Akim in the work of Yahbashim Shai with all sincerity and in truth and singleness of mind. Double honors and salutations to those on the pulse of great wisdom who rule well. As you can see, the title of the video, on the screen says, "This storm is a monster. Carolina's braced for Hurricane Florence." So this was just the day before, okay, Friday. But at the same time, you understand that whatever happens in the heavens, man, the Most High is in control. So whatever you look, man, up in the sky, you could tell that the Most High is about his business. He takes care of things the way they're supposed to be, man. And Esau tries to interfere. But it just lets you know, man, that whatever the Most High purpose is, man, it comes with a cost. It lets the people know upon the face of the earth that he runs the show and that he's unstoppable. So I'll play the video real quick. All right.
Hurricane Florence is being called a monster tonight, and it's still hundreds of miles off the Carolinas coast. As of this evening, the storm is 500 miles wide with winds at 140 miles an hour, a Category 4, and there are forecasts of 2.5 feet of rain. PJ Tobia reports from Wilmington, North Carolina, where they're bracing for the worst.
So you can see, man, it's a Category 4, but, I believe it was downgraded. So you can tell, man, from the satellite images, you see how huge it could be. But then, the stuff has reduced in size, the speed has reduced. And then, hey, destruction, man. That's what the hurricanes represent, man. Destruction, destruction, destruction. There's nothing good, about a hurricane hitting the land, man. It's just going to tear it up. But at the same time, a lot of things get exposed. You never know exactly what you're going to find that's been hidden, So that's another way of looking at it, man,
The beaches are still calm, but the danger is growing out at sea. For many around Wilmington, near Florence's direct path, the name of the game is elevation and triage.
So at this point in the game, you're just trying to elevate things and get them at least this high or above. So you got to look at everything and go, is that 50%? Like, I need that for, if I lost it, would I die? Or, is it irreplaceable, so to speak?
People here are used to storms, but Florence could be the strongest to hit North Carolina since 1954.
We've never had a hurricane like this that's come to Wrightsville Beach. And there's been 3s and 2s, but never anything this strong. So we're going to be safe.
The hurricane is on a path to make landfall in southeastern North Carolina Friday. Today, Governor Roy Cooper ordered evacuations of all the state's barrier islands.
This storm is a monster. It's big and it's vicious. It is an extremely dangerous, life-threatening, historic hurricane. Even if you've ridden out storms before, this one is different. Don't bet your life on riding out a monster.
In South Carolina, mandatory evacuations began at midday for the entire coast, affecting 1 million people.
This one looks a little uglier than other ones. Rather be safe than sorry.
The mass evacuation is a mammoth undertaking, but Governor Henry McMaster says it's the only choice.
We are in a very deadly and important game of chess with Hurricane Florence. And what we are doing, Team South Carolina is staying one step ahead.
Meanwhile, supplies at grocery and hardware stores are already dwindling as people stock up. And in places like Charleston, South Carolina, residents are readying sandbags for heavy flooding, while food banks are packing non-perishables for potential power outages. The immense size of Hurricane Florence and up to 30 inches of rain mean the power losses and flooding will be felt over several states. Officials from the Federal Emergency Management Agency warn today the effects will not soon fade away.
This storm's going to be a direct hit onto our coast, and I want to set the expectations now that it is going to be a long time and a long-term recovery when we talk about the effects of Florence.
So I can that's about it, So I'm just gonna bring out some precepts, man, because man, this storm's just a sign to the Akim, man, that destruction is on its way to America, also known as Babylon in the Bible. The great harlot. All right. So I got a scripture here in 7th, 8th chapter of the book of Psalms. So you could see that the Most High is in control, man. All right. So it says in verse 26, He caused an east wind to blow in the heaven, and by His power He brought in the south wind. All right. So, when Jake was in the land of Egypt, when they left, the Messiah showed signs in the heavens. He controlled, the heavens so the nation of Israel could have a easy passage out of captivity. And I see here it says it caused an east wind to blow in the heaven, and His power He brought, and by His power He brought in the south wind. So the Most High determines, the direction the wind flows in, the intensity, how much destruction is gonna cause. The Most High is in charge of all that, man, as well as picking the people He needs to eliminate. So the Most High has different ways of letting His judgment be known, man. Whether it's through earthquakes, whether it's through hurricanes, storms, landslides, quicksands, whatever, power outages, accidents, whatever, man. The Most High has different ways of letting people know that He's the power, the power above all powers, all right? And then you look at Psalms chapter 107. Look at verse 25. All right. So it says, For He commanded, and He raised the stormy wind, which lifted up the waves thereof. So the waves of the seas, okay? They mount up to the heaven, they go down again to the depths. Their soul is melted because of trouble. All right. So those at sea, man, they understand how this storm could affect them, man. And how the U.S. Navy, they send out the ships off the coast, man, away far from the path of the storm. So let you know, man, all this military hardware and equipment that Esau has, man, they're nothing, man. If they're so much of a superpower, why the hell do they got to move their stuff? So just let you know, man, all the so-called military power upon the face of the earth are just like, matchboxes, man, piece of paper, to the Most High. He could wipe them off the face of the sea at any time He chooses to. And He's going to do that very soon, all right? So it says, For He commanded, He raised the stormy wind, which lifted up the waves thereof. They mount up to the heaven, they go down again to the depths, all right? And then it's last line 26 says, Their soul is melted because of trouble. So, folks are going to be afraid, man. When they see these hurricanes and storms, the typhoons, whatever, hadoops, whatever they call them, man. Folks will be scared, man. To say people got to evacuate, they start to make arrangements to get supplies, go to a safe location, trying to hit higher ground. All right. So people, understand what it means, man, to leave everything behind and then to go somewhere else. And hoping and praying that everything that they have left at home stays intact, no major damages. And they got to just take it up with their insurance companies, all right? And those that choose to stay behind, they're going to bear the brunt of it, They start calling 911 or 611 or on Twitter or whatever, or making YouTube videos or uploading to Instagram asking for help, all right? So it's going to get messed up, man, when, so much turmoil on the face of America. When you have the so-called civil war, you have the race wars, where people going to escape to. The government doesn't have any arrangements for that to save the people, because it's the same old government that is going to be bringing the destruction. That's through the power of Yahweh Shai. All right. So for what I've seen so far, it's just an exercise, man. We have all the coordination between the so-called emergency response teams of the different states in that area with FEMA, and they're gonna try, man, to see what they're gonna learn from it. All right. Another precept also in the book of Psalms. All right, so go to Psalm 135 verses 6 and 7 says, whatsoever the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahshua B'Shem HaKodash pleased, that he did in heaven and in earth and in the seas and all deep places. All right. So whatever, the Most High has decided that is going to happen, the signs and the presence of chariots in the heavens, the Most High decided that it's going to happen, for those upon the earth to see. If he decides to let a comet fly through or a meteor pass through and hit the surface of the earth or part of the sea, is the Most High's desire. All right. Whatever happens beneath the surface of the seas, and the lagoon, or whatever, or inside a volcano, hey, it's all the Most High's desire. All right. So it says, verse 7 says, he causeth the vapors to ascend from the end of the earth. He maketh lightnings for the rain. He bringeth the wind out of his treasuries. All right. So the Most High is the source of of the weather. He decides how the weather is going to be operating upon the face of the earth. That's why you have the different seasons, because of the Most High's blueprint. If you go back to Genesis, the first chapter, sets up the great lights, the two great lights, the sun and the moon, as well as the earth, and then you add the stars and the other planets in there. So the Most High has a diverse array of objects up there that do his bidding. So if you're gonna have extreme high temperatures there in the south, the Most High is in charge of that. The fall season, the autumn, summertime, whatever, the Most High decides all that. So precepts in the scripture just tells you how the Most High controls them. And these meteorologists, or or people that study the astrophysics, whatever, they study the scriptures too. They look in the scriptures for clues. All right, so they know that the Most High is real, man. That's why they have the satellites. They have the Hubble Space Telescopes and different telescopes. And not to even forget the observatories. We also have telescopes around the different places of the earth at different high points above sea level. All right. So you look at the book of Ecclesiastes. Yeah, I'm just going in sequential order. All right. According to the books. All right. So it's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1. Look at verses 5 and 6. It says, the sun also ariseth and the sun goeth down, and he hasteth to his place where he arose. So let you know the sun has a path that it travels through. All right. And then you understand that it's no joke, man, when the scriptures match exactly what's happening in the heavens. All right. And then verse 6 says, the wind goeth toward the south, and turneth round about unto the north. It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. So they all have a path through which they travel around the face of the earth, man. So it's beautiful, man, to see how the Most High has set things in order. All right. So it's beautiful to know that this understanding, knowledge, and wisdom is in the scriptures. All right. You don't have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars, to go to some so-called college or institute to understand the weather. All you gotta do is just pray that Yahweh Shema Shai gives you the spirit to look into the precepts of the Holy Bible, and then you see exactly the way things have been operated. All right. And then you look at the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 16. When he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasuries. So that's a repetition of what's written in the book of Psalms. So that there lets you know, man, the prophets have an understanding of how the weather operates. If you're a farmer, you gotta know exactly how the weather operates. If you're also someone that's into traveling by sea or by land, you gotta understand the way the weather works. All right, you gotta know the best times to travel. The seasons. Okay. So that way you're able to have a safe journey. All right. So you go to the book of Acts chapter. No, I'll just go to the book of Jonah. It gives you a good example. So look at if you look at verse 4 of chapter 1, the book of Jonah says, "But the Lord sent out a great wind into the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea, so that the ship was like to be broken." All right. It says then, verse 5 says, "Then the mariners were afraid." All right. Well, those are the folks who are operating the ship, all right, which Jonah was, "and cried every man unto his God, and cast forth the wares that were in the ship into the sea to lighten it of them. But Jonah was gone down into the sides of the ship, and he lay and was fast asleep." So it's an example of letting you know that the Most High is in control, man. Akim shouldn't be afraid. Your faith is supposed to be, stable. When hell's breaking out around you, you should be stable in the spirit, man. All right. So look at the book of Jonah again, chapter 4, and you see verse 8. It says, "And it came to pass when the sun did arise, that Alhaim prepared a vehement east wind, and the sun beat upon the head of Jonah, that he fainted, and wishing himself to die, and said, It is better for me to die than to live." All right. So it's important that I can remember that the Most High runs the show, man. There is no way around it. The weather up in the heavens, the Most High is in charge of all that. And you have all the examples you need to take a look at in the Holy Scriptures. You look at the book of Acts, chapter 27. Look at just bear with me out here. Look at verse 14. Alright, so just look at verse 13. So it says, "And when the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, losing thence, they sailed close to Crete." Okay. "But not long after, there arose against it a tempestuous wind called Euroclydon. And when the ship was caught, they could not bear up in So they could not bear up into the wind. We let her drive. Okay. So they just let, the ship go wherever I needed to go to, man. They couldn't control the ship, man, because the Messiah had a purpose for that to happen. All right. When it says, and running under a certain island, which is called Clauda, we had much work to come by the boat. All right. So it wasn't easy, man, for the Apostle Paul to go through, on his journeys to preach the gospel. Whether it was in bonds, whether it was free, traveling by sea wasn't a joke for him. All right. So in verse 17 says, which when they had taken up, they used helps, undergirding the ship, and fearing lest they should fall into the quicksand, strake sail, and so were driven. So having a ship is no joke, man. To be the captain of a ship, you have to be well educated on how to operate it. And when you're out of options, you just gotta, stick with it, man. Just let the storm have its way, If you're driven off course, just go with the flow, man. It's gonna be difficult going against the storm, otherwise it's just gonna capsize. It's gonna get flipped over. So the best thing to do when you're on sea, man, is just go with the flow. When the sea is calm, you get yourself back on track. All right. And then book of Nahum, chapter 1, and look at verse 3. It says, the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahshua Ba'ashem HaKadosh, is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. The Lord Yahweh had his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. All right. So in verse 4 says, he rebuked the seas and make it dry, and dried up all the rivers. Yep. So when you have, rivers, falling back, and more land getting exposed, streams drying up, the Most High is the one in charge of all that, man. Folks will be screaming at global warming, climate change. The Most High is the one causing all those things to happen, all right? So whatever theories Esau has, the Most High is the one determining how things are going to happen. So with that, the Most High is in charge of the weather, man. There's nothing Esau can do to be in control, man. He might try to make a few tweaks here and there, cause things to happen, trying to make rain, trying to hold back rain, whatever. But all in all, man, is the Most High allowing it to happen. All right, so it's according to the Most High's plan. So there's nothing people upon the face of the earth could do, man, but praise Yahweh Shem Shai, and observe His ways, man. Especially the elect, the people of the house of Israel. And the Akia, man, there's nothing to be afraid of. When going through the scriptures, you just gotta accept it. It's part of our heritage to, dig deep into the words of Yahweh Shem Shai. You might get terrified, but at the end of the day, man, you have to accept it, man, that you are of a power that is above all, man. You be at loss of words to describe the Most High, but hey, just stick with the scriptures. Shalom.